really simple mission as a parent. And for many, it's, your children go to school and then university and become a doctor or a lawyer or whatever that is. And I'm not that parent. My simple goals for my children were that they grew to be kind, compassionate, happy children. Because what we know is that happy children become happy adults. So we set out on a mission on his 3rd birthday because I wanted to teach him all about giving back to the world.
Yeah.
So we made a commitment that every day for 365 days, 1 year, we were going to do one thing to give back to our world. And, it had to be so simple that a 3-year-old could do it. And so we broke it down into categories. We could give to animals. We could give back to the planet. We could even, give back to people in any way that we so chose. So my son actually was the one who got us going, and the first person or the first group he wanted to give back to were to animals. And so we headed down to our local animal rescue shelter. And we made our first donation of towels and blankets, and we spent some time volunteering, petting the cats and playing with them. And that started us on our journey, which has been truly remarkable, has taken us places I never expected, like right here with you, which is amazing. And we actually, after 365 days of giving, I had gotten a call from a friend of mine. I had created a blog to kind of record our stories as we went along. And I had a simple hope that if anybody other than my friends and family read the blog, that they may be inspired to give as well.
Right.
And they did. And people started reaching out to us actually from all over the world. This was the days before Instagram. And people actually used to read blogs, and it was a great way to communicate. And so people started reaching out from all over the world and getting in contact with us and sharing their own giving stories because they had been inspired by Nick. So we decided it needed to keep going. After 365 days, I had a habit. At that point, I formed a habit of giving every day. I love doing it. And a teacher friend reached out to me and she asked if she could bring the 365 Give concept into her classroom. And, our journey went from there. I always say this, I was just a mom, but, we created an educational program, which today has traveled to over 400 schools across the globe.
Wow.
Which still amazes me every day. We've inspired, thousands and thousands of children and teachers and classrooms and entire schools.
Yeah.
And we've actually grown from there. And we decided, I was very blessed to do a TED Talk a number of years ago that has gone pretty viral. And it really inspired us through the feedback that we got from everybody, because our TED Talk is called How to Be Happy Every Day. It will change the world. And so many people are searching for happiness. Everybody says the same thing. I can't believe I'm searching YouTube on how to be happy, which is kind of perfect for this.
Yeah.
And what we realized from people is that they were also inspired by our stories. So our programs now include families, they include individuals, they include businesses, they include community groups. And we've literally been able to inspire millions all over the world and inspire them to also give in just small ways, because we truly believe 2 things. And one, we know the benefits of giving. And we can talk a little bit about the science of giving, but the psychological, mental and physical benefits of giving that has to our bodies and to our brains. But also, we believe that every individual is the untapped person in our world that will actually create, as we were talking about earlier, that will be the people that resolve some of our globe's biggest problems. Our governments can't just be the one leading to solve climate change. It takes each of us to solve climate change. We can't expect the government to feed every hungry person. We all need to be part of helping solve hunger in our world and poverty and all of the other crises that we have going on. So that's what we believe. We believe in a humanity that every individual has the ability to give in some way. It doesn't have to cost money. We're not about giving hundreds of dollars to charities. It's a small thing we can each individually do every day.
I mean, it's inspirational, and you're not just a mother.
I'm learning that. I'm not just a mother.
And I always believe, when I look at my mother's life, I always believe that, you must have been also looking back to your mother's life, so much they were doing, which was, never if we will start creating a task list, like, the Excel sheet will be small for the worksheet.
Yeah, I've actually put a dollar value on motherhood and how much we should actually get paid for our 24 hours of service every day for, our lifetime. And really, nobody could afford to pay us for the work that we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing work they do, and it's unconditional. It's a unique element God has given all mothers.
Absolutely.
We all have inner struggles, and happiness is different to every single person on the planet.
It is.
What advice can you give everyone how to have a happy life? I know this is your concept, and
it is absolutely. I've the blessing of all of this is I've become what I call a neuroscience nerd. And the world of happiness absolutely fascinates me because of that. Happiness is as unique as each individual footprint for everybody on the planet.
Yeah.
But when you start to understand how your brain and your body works and how you can actually use that to help create happiness in your life, it's really neat. So so I can remember it myself personally, I have a little acronym that I use, and I call it your daily dose of happiness.
Yes.
And DOSE is an acronym that stands for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Yeah. And these are basically the chemicals in our body that make us feel motivated, reward, happy, love, excited, and drives us forward. So dopamine is our reward chemical. It's that system that always wants us to keep us going when we don't feel we have anything more to go. Yeah. And it's our natural reward system that we get. Right. So if somebody gives you an award for something, dopamine's like going off in your body. Right. But it's the way it kind of moves us forward. So if you're feeling stuck in your life, you need to get your dopamine going in your world. The next one is oxytocin. Oxytocin, that's our love hormone. So that's when somebody gives you a warm hug, your first love, when you fall in love, whatever it is, anything to do with love, that's oxytocin firing off in your body. Your next one is serotonin. That is our body's happy transmitter that makes us feel happiness. And this can happen both from the inside and it can come from the outside world. Right. And the last one is our endorphins. And for anybody that's out there, if you've heard of the runner's high or the exercising high, when you feel really good when you're exercising, it's the same thing. Endorphins are the thing that kind of give us that natural high feeling in our world. Well, the really neat thing, and you and I were talking about this, is that when you give, even in small ways, it fires off all of this chemical reaction that goes on in your body. So you get your daily dose of happiness when you give. And so it's one of the reasons that we always preach, make sure you go out and just find your small things you can do every day to get all of those centers in your body going. Yeah. The other thing that we suggest to everybody, and I talk about this a lot, and I happen to have 3 children. My boys are actually all adopted and all what we call neurodiverse. So they have neuro differences that make life a little hard for them at times and very hard to regulate their nervous systems. They get very dysregulated very easily. So we've created something in our houses called a happy toolbox. And I always like to share this with people because it's something that we can all build. You don't have to be a child. And your happy box could be something that literally sits on your desk, or it could just be something mentally that you are creating for yourself. But it's literally sitting down with yourself and going, okay, what is it that makes me happy? What are the things? And some can be from the outside world, but you have to find the things on the inside that make you happy too. So we already talked, giving will stimulate that happy hormone in your body, serotonin. For me, for example, my happy place is my garden. I love gardening. So I love getting out into nature. We've all heard this. This is one of the pillars of well-being. Get out into nature any way that you can. Now that's been really tough for the past year for most people, with COVID lockdowns and being, stuck at home. That can be really hard. But even going out and looking out your window will help open that up a little bit for you. And when you do have the chance, or if you get a break to get out of your house and walk in nature. That's a big one. But you can find other things. And especially if you're stuck at home right now, I always say this, check the algorithm on your phone. What's coming up for you on your computer? What's coming up for you on Instagram? What's coming up for you on YouTube? What are you listening to? What are you watching automatically in your life? Do a check-in on that. So for me personally, I know on my YouTube, I can go to my YouTube anytime. Nothing but positivity comes up on my YouTube. Music comes up on my YouTube. meditation comes up on my YouTube, any inspirational talks come up on my YouTube. So I've set the algorithm on my social feed. So the only thing I'm looking at is things that are positive. And if they're not positive, either delete them or get rid of them. So that's another thing you can add to your happiness. What are you watching and what are you consuming that will help your happiness?
Yeah. And all social media is built like that, so you can choose, and people blame the social media, but it's very positive.
You set your own algorithm.
Set your own algorithm, and the feed will be accordingly, because they are watching you. They are monitoring.
They track every single thing that you watch.
So
really watch what you're consuming, right? If you're going to YouTube and watching news from whatever country you watch, you're going to keep getting more bad news, because that's how news feeds make money, by sharing bad news. But if you're going for other things, like I said, inspirational speakers, if you have a religious background, you're listening to people that have the same faith as you do. If you have spiritual leaders and you're listening to those, if you have books, there's so many books you could be listening to on YouTube, whatever it is, start taking a check-in and go, what am I surrounding myself with every day? And the other one too, I say, set your iTunes, whatever music feed you use, fill that with music that either makes you want to dance or makes you want to just relax and go into some kind of form of meditation or just calming your mind. Set those so that you have algorithms that if you need a little jolt of happiness in your life, put on that playlist that's going to make you feel like getting up and dancing or singing. That'll start to get those chemicals going in your body as well. But the big one is, we can't be happy from the outside world. It's never going to work that way.
No.
You really have to find what works for you. And you have to be really clear on that and literally make your happiness list. So you know what your go-to things are. And if you can't make a happiness list, you need to start. You need to find out the things for you that are going to work to make you feel happy in your life. Because what research has told us is if you think it's going to be money, it's actually not. There is a cap point at money where money no longer makes you happy. Money will probably make you work a lot harder, which will not make your life happier. Money will do lots of things. It will give you experiences potentially that will make you happy and bring happiness to your life. But you have to remember that money's not the end all be all, and you'll get to a certain level of wealth, depending on where you live in the world. It's all measured differently, where your happiness levels will not increase anymore because you make more money.
I believe money can be only fulfilling your material requirement,
Absolutely.
Beyond that, it's all up to you.
It is up to you. Yep. And, creating that meaning in our life, and that's a big part of happiness, is where are you finding meaning in your life? And that's why I do what I do, because giving creates meaning for me. I know I'm touching other people's lives. And even if that's just one life a day, I'm creating meaning in my life every day by helping and supporting our planet, by giving back to animals, by bringing happiness to other people through smiles, through messages, through notes of gratitude, whatever that is, that creates meaning for me in my life, which instantly gives me happiness as well.
Right. Yeah. So that brings to my next question. I always hear from the women's I don't know how to balance. How can you balance being a mom to your children and being the world younger? What are the struggle you overcome to get to where you are?
Absolutely. Well, it took me about a decade to get there, I have to say. It's not easy. I have been a working mom since the day my first son came home. I had my own business at the time when I adopted my first son. I juggled flying between one side of the country to the other, and trying to run my own business from a different city and have children. And what we have to remember is that it goes in ebbs and flows in our life. So first of all, when your children are very young, your job needs to be a mother, and you need to be okay with that. That has to be your number one priority, because it's the most important job in the world.
Right.
If you're not, and I'm not saying you have to be a stay-home mom, but if your children aren't your main focus, the problem is that it's messing with your children and for their future. So the main thing is make your children your focus, and everything has to become secondary until they're a little older and they start to get some of their own independence. So their school years, or they're going off to preschool or whatever that is. But the main thing for me is make sure out of everything, you're carving out some time for yourself. Because if you're not happy, fulfilled, less stressed in your life, you can't be of service to your family. You can't be of service to your workplace. You're not going to perform properly. Your brain's not going to work well. None of it will happen for you. So what I started doing years ago is I actually get up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day so that I can be of service to myself. I do my exercise. I listen to my motivational YouTube stories that are coming up. I do my meditation. I do these things first before I help anybody else in my family, because then I am emotionally regulated. I'm happy that I've done the things that I want to do for me first. And then I'm ready for my family, and I'm ready for work, and I'm ready to do what I'm here to do on the planet. I didn't do that for a decade, and I suffered. I suffered a lot. I made everybody else the priority over myself. And then one day I told everybody in my family, that's it, I'm done. I literally went on strike during COVID for a little while because everybody thought that I should be of service to them all the time. That is not serving, especially your family, or teaching your family to take care of themselves, or your children, or your husbands for that matter. And nor is it at work either. You know, you're not going to be your best at your job if you're not at your best, because what actually happens, and I always like explaining this to people, it's your quick little neuroscience learning that if this is your brain, we have two parts of our brain. This is our thinking critical brain. This is the part that helps us at work, keeps our lives organized. That's how we learn. This is our emotional brain here. If our bodies are under deep stress, what happens is our thinking brain and our emotional brain can no longer work together anymore. You literally flip your lid. That's when, you know, you yell at your children and you're not happy anymore, and you just feel like stress and anxiety is coming in all over you. And you have now flipped your thinking brain, and it's no longer working to the best of its ability. So when you're in that state in your life, you're no longer functioning well. You can't be creative. You won't organize well. You won't be learning well, even if you're going to school. So the more regulated you are and your emotions are regulated, then both parts of your brain are actually working and functioning at their peak performance. So if you can keep that in your mind, and especially for women who have to juggle so many different hats, you know, we're not just working, you know, raising a family is so much work. But if you can get your emotional regulation in check, then you will actually work to the best of your ability. And that's the big lesson that I learned for myself, that I make sure I have that practice for myself every day.
Right. Very interesting and very good advice. So you manage yourself. It's all about time management, you know, the way you'd manage time.
Yeah.
And it's all defined by you. Like, you know, I also remember when I was, you know, I had young children, I was full-time job. If I will quit, there will be a career gap, and then no company will hire me back. You remember back in those days, if you have a career gap, nobody will hire you. So I have to manage all that thing. And I was very career oriented. I tried to quit one time, and, you know, I took 2 months break, and I was one of, you know, very sad person at that time. You know, 2 months, my husband says that if you're not going to be happy, we are not going to be happy. So yeah. And
exactly.
You know, all my life I was working. So this is something I feel like I will be continue working until my, you know, whole body and brain is working, you know.
That's what I say, yeah.
And that makes me happy because that's what all I know. Right? That's how I built up. That's how I grew up. And if I'm going to quit that, it's going to be making me very unhappy or unsatisfied, I would say. You know?
That's the perfect word for it, really, isn't it? It's the satisfaction.
Satisfaction is not, it's not about just money. It's about getting that satisfaction. I was always being an ambitious person. If I will not satisfy my ambitions, then I'm really not going to be happy. And I chose that. And I needed to learn the car and all those things. So I started waking up. I mean, I wake up 5 a.m. in the morning. It's just the rule, right? It's a old ancient culture practice from my parents. But I started waking up a little earlier so that before my kids wake up, I learned car, I learned all those things, because in my childhood, I didn't learn those things. So bounce back to the career. And since then, no looking back. And 3.5 years children, I started bringing them to involvement, you know, like, help me with this, let's chop that veggie with me. And they are just sitting there. I'm chopping, but they are involved. right?
Exactly.
So I'm not gonna give them the dangerous thing, but I'm not suggesting to that. But I'm just saying that keep them involved, keep them around in your kitchen, around
Absolutely.
you where you are
Yeah,
working.
absolutely.
Take help from their, folding the clothes and all, and it helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for your wisdom. Really, really inspiring. That brings to my last question. How can you define unconditional happiness?
Can I define unconditional happiness? I don't think there's such a thing as unconditional happiness. I think we go through ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And I think we need to,
Yeah.
because the reason being is, I have a belief that if you don't have times that you're unhappy in your life, I think those are the times where you're in your greatest lessons,
Yeah.
if you can see it that way.
Yeah.
I always say this, we wouldn't know how good love feels if we didn't get really scared, or we didn't feel a lot of fear. And you wouldn't know how good happiness felt if you didn't feel unhappiness.
Yeah.
So for me, happiness is not the ultimate destination. For me, I think inner peace is more of a destination for me.
Yeah.
So I can manage those ebbs and flows of happy and unhappy. So I think that's probably more of a goal for me. I don't think there is a perfect state of happiness all of the time. I think maybe if you're a monk in Tibet and you never leave the monastery and you're not influenced by the outside world in any way, you've got a pretty good chance at it. But I think the human experience is experiencing it all.
Yeah.
But it's the difference between experiencing it's the difference between you letting life dictate how you feel and you choosing how you're going to feel every day. Because life can dictate a lot of stuff at us. We all have our stories from whether our childhood or wherever it is that are not great stories that have affected us in our life. Abuse, divorce, whatever it may be for you in your life, your parents' loss, so many things. But what we know is that we all have the choice on how we react.
Yeah.
And so for me, the state of happiness is how can I take what life brings to me and stay somewhat in a calm, happy place with everything that goes around in our world, because I want to experience it all. I want to experience the great highs and, experience the great lows, because that makes the highs so much better.
Yeah.
So, but it's being able to stand back from that and recognize it and go, okay, I'm in a low right now and I need to make that shift, and it's taking those moments and being consciously aware of how you're feeling, honestly, at any given moment in the day. And when you're going off the rails a little bit and you're not feeling happy, or you're angry, or you're upset, or somebody's done something to you, it's taking that moment and going, okay, I've got to recognize this and really, why is this making me upset? How am I I always say, how are you letting others take your power away from you?
Mm.
So it's, how do you start recognizing that? How am I letting other people and the outside world take out the best in myself?
Right. Before you go, I would like to ask you one last question for business community. So
Sure.
business community is actually how they can contribute, being a corporate CSR responsibility, how they can contribute, and what's your suggestion for them? And,
Absolutely. I think I don't consider giving a responsibility for people. I see it as the best opportunity to make the most growth in your company. And here's the reason why. And there goes all my kids in the background. And here's the reason why, is because happiness and CSR programs will be the best investment you've ever made in your company. And what most people don't realize is that when you instill both a well-being and CSR program into your company, it will actually improve your bottom line by up to 23%. And this is now, sorry, I apologize. The kids are running around. I apologize for that. But the rate of return, because when your people feel connected to a corporate social responsibility, when it's a team effort, it's a group effort, it's something that you're all going to do together as a company, they start to get all of those things that I just spoke about. They start to feel like there's meaning and purpose in their life. they will get the happiness from the giving that the company is doing together. It will bring your team together and bond together. Well, when you have employees doing all of this together, you're increasing their well-being, you're creating a happy atmosphere at work. You have employees that want to stay with the company. You have employees that are raving about the company. You have employees that are your best ambassadors. And when you do that, they're the ones that are up, they're the ones talking to your customers. They're the ones that are communicating with the people that you're selling to.
Sure.
Those are the employees that you want in your company. And
Right.
that's how your revenue goes up.
Yeah. And that's how you define your value, and value matches, then yeah.
Absolutely. But get your employees involved in the decisions on how you're going to give. I can give you literally 365 days worth of giving ideas, but get your employees, find out what they care about. You know, make a plan together.
Yeah.
Get them to help you make those choices. Is it the environment? Is it the people that you're working with in your own community? Is it a combination of all of those things? But when you get your employees invested in your CSR program, it will truly grow beyond what you will ever imagine. They'll be matching contributions. You'll be making contributions. You'll be doing team building experiences together. And this is the opportunity in CSR programs.
Yeah, right. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your knowledge to share, and your experience to share with my audience. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, well, just such an honor for me to have these conversations. Reminds me of why I do what I do. So thank you so much for that. It's kind of my reminder of, every life that I can touch, and even if only one person listens and, learn something from our conversation, that is my blessing for the day. And I'm deeply honored that you asked me to have this conversation with you today.
Is it? We can be just a droplet, isn't it?
That's all we need to do. It's that drop that creates a ripple, and then we get the wave going. So it's just an honor to meet you, and for all you do to give. Your stories have just inspired me today. Just remarkable. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, audience, for joining in. If you haven't subscribed and liked so far, please do that. All her details will be given in the description. Please follow her, admire her, whatever ways you can help this community and the humanity going, we urge you to do. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like